Welcome everyone to our May Capital Chat, the last day of the month. We're glad that you are all here with us today. I'm Brooke Lovelace. I'm the Executive Director of the Iowa Developmental Disabilities Council. And today's focus is mostly going to be on voting, with maybe a few announcements and some time for you guys to do some discussion and some questions as well too. So you're not just listening to us, and we do have some great guest speakers today. So you don't have to listen just to the DD Council. So that might be a fresh change for everybody. But I think I'm first going to turn it over to you, Amy, to kick us off.
Unmute myself. Hi, everybody. Good. Happy last day of May. I just wanted to first we're going to talk a little bit about voting and voter empowerment today, since we are coming up here on the primary election. But I wanted to just kick it off today by talking about kind of the trend we're seeing in voting in Iowa, which is very, very close votes. I have heard from many of my kids' friends. My daughter's a first-time voter this year. Well, she was last year in the city elections, but first primary or general election and primary vote this year. And a lot of her friends are like, it's my vote's not going to count. And it drives me crazy, because that's just not true. And so I wanted to throw up a couple of statistics here to show you how close some of these votes are. And this is, I think, indicative of the fact that we're having more divided voting, closer votes. And it's just kind of a trend that we're seeing in Iowa. So it started back in 2020, where Representative Marionette Miller Meeks, who's down in the south south and east corner of Iowa. I tried to get these geographically placed too. So we've got west, east, middle. But she won by just 6 votes. 6 votes in a congressional campaign. It was the closest congressional election in the country. That's out of 413,000 votes. 6 votes made a difference. So if 6 people decided, my vote's not going to count, or 5 or 7 people decided, that would have changed the vote total. That was in 2020. In 2022, we had a record number of House votes that were super close, state House votes. So a lot of you know Representative Josh Turek. He won by just 7 votes on election night. His challenger asked for a recount, and the final count was 6 votes. So 6 votes made that change. That's over in Council Bluffs, so the western side of the state. If you move to the middle of the state in Ankeny, Representative Heather Matson won by just 24 votes. She beat an incumbent, a person that was already serving as a representative. But after the vote count, it was 23 votes. Representative Chuck Eisenhardt up in Dubuque on the western side of the state, north and west, or east, I'm sorry. He won by 95 votes. The final count after a re-election was 94 votes. And that's in a very, very strong Democratic stronghold. So it was a surprise to many people that there was that close of an election there. Representative Luana Stoltenberg's race was probably the craziest, and didn't get decided, I don't think, until mid-December. Her race went through 2 recounts. She lost on election night by 29 votes. A machine recount, which is the standard that they do, found that was she only lost by 6 votes. So she requested a hand recount, which then reversed it and showed that she won by 11 votes. So these votes are so close that you can see that if you and a handful of friends decide, my vote's not going to count, then that could change the whole outcome of the race. And then more importantly, it changes what people focus on at the Capitol, because each candidate comes with their own list of priorities that they're going to want to do when they go to the state Capitol. So when you get frustrated that legislators are or aren't doing certain things, that is a direct impact of the votes. Because we vote people in that come along with them with priorities, their own personal priorities, their party's priorities, their district's priorities. And if you haven't talked to them and made your priorities their priorities, then you can see that has serious impacts on individuals in the state with or without disabilities. So I just wanted to start off our conversation with that, and more importantly, turn it over to Brooke, who's going to introduce our speakers who will share some personal insights on that.
Great, thanks for that, Amy. Yeah, we do have two great prominent self-advocates with us today with Alex Waters and Jen Wolf, and they're also great friends of the council as well. And I think we'll let them introduce themselves, but I think Alex said he wanted to actually get the party started. So we'll let Alex go first. And thank you guys both for being here today with us.
No, I really, really appreciate that, Brooke. And Amy, thank you so much for setting the stage and talking about some of those really close races. Yes, I want to get the party started. Come on, May is coming to an end. It is Friday. Hopefully the sun is shining wherever you are joining from. But I want to just briefly introduce myself, and then we'll be happy to talk about some different topics, the importance of voting, but also being an educated voter and just the opportunity for all of you to continue to make a difference, even when it seems like there might not be an impact or you might not see that direct impact. My name is Alex Waters. I'm coming to you from Iowa's West Coast, Sioux City, Iowa, baby, all the way over here. And so joining actually from my office, and I have my little puppy here with me. She's out in the main area, so if any point I gotta jump off, she's probably gonna try to interrupt and wants to be a part of every Zoom I'm on. So as soon as I start talking, she thinks she needs to come in and be a part of it. But I really have been involved in the political sphere for some time. I was really involved and loved participating in high school and continued to stay active. It definitely wasn't a priority to me my whole life, but just something I was mildly interested in, and at least made sure to get out and vote because I did feel that that was important. And then in 2012, I actually started working for President Obama and Vice President Biden's reelection effort, and got even more involved and really started thinking much more critically about issues and the effect that they have on people and how these policies truly translate to impacting people's lives. And I talked to a lot of voters that were, I mean, some were happy, some were unhappy, but they all had such unique contributions and things to offer that as soon as that campaign was over, I thought to myself that I should run for office. And if I'm willing to fight for some of these people that are putting their names on a ballot and they're willing to advocate for what they think is important, surely I could do the same and try to make a difference. And so I ran for office in 2016 and was, or no, 2014, I apologize, and was unsuccessful. Yep, first time out doesn't always go as planned. And so I lost that race, but my dad would say I'm hard-headed. I would say that I'm determined. And so when another opportunity came up, I decided to run again. There was an opening on the city council. This time, the first race was for the board of supervisors. And so then when the city council seat opened through a vacancy, I applied to fill that vacancy and was selected. And so in February of 2017, I was appointed, and then I was elected at large that November in 17 and reelected in 21. So for those of you that maybe don't know, I serve, like I said, on the city council. There are 5 members total. We all have equal vote. And Sioux City is Iowa's 4th largest city. So, I mean, you're talking 85,000 people and $200 million plus operating budget, as well as capital improvement budget. So it's a lot of responsibility, but a lot of opportunity. And so I obviously recognize the importance of voting, and it's what helped get me to where I am today and the ability to serve and hopefully push forward a lot of similar issues and concerns and address concerns that maybe some of you have. And so I'm just thankful to be here today and thankful for the opportunity.
Okay, so Alex got the party started. Thank you. I'm Jen Wolf. I'm in Waverly, Iowa, in the northeast corner. I had a little bit different learning curve. I did my first protest during the Gulf War in college and went out to DC, and then became disabled much later in life, when I was about 30, and became an occupational therapist, and then got involved in advocacy around 2010, back when Iowa was purple. And going to DC was fun because we had to talk to both the Democrats and the Republicans and try to make a difference. And it was fun. It was a challenge to reach out to both parties. And advocacy is really, really important, and talking to all those different party members. But I wasn't seeing enough. And the more you talk to the disability community, you find out not enough of us are running for office. And I started doing advocacy with a group of folks called Upgrade Medicaid. Shout out to all those folks who did all that really important work in bringing the message of changes to Medicaid. But not a lot was changing legislatively. And so I just decided to run for state Senate, because if anything, I knew I probably wasn't going to run or win because of my district being very red or being very Republican. But I knew it was an opportunity to get the message out about the care crisis in Iowa, that was impacting the disability community, that was impacting our elderly, that was impacting our children. And it did give the opportunity for me to speak several times one-on-one with now Senator Salmon, to get in her ear a little bit about those things. So hopefully she does care a little bit more about those issues in Senate. Anyway, I did lose that first time around, and I wasn't sure I was going to run for office again. But the gal who was in my ward in Waverly was moving to a different ward, was going to run for at large. And she reached out to me and said, "You would be a great council person." And I'd never really thought about that. So I gave some thought and thought, what a great way to make some local changes, to be able to show up and be a person with a disability in an elected office. And so I changed my mind and I ran for office, and I won this time. And one of the best parts about that was one of the first things they had to do is put a ramp into the dais so I could get up to city council with everyone else. And it just, one of the council members said, "We never really thought about that because we didn't think about a person with disability running for office." Well, now they're thinking about that. And I think that's one of the most important pieces of showing up in that way. But let's get back to the importance of voting and getting out there, because one of the things that I hope we talk about is that the disability community at large kind of has the lower turnout. And what can we do about that, Alex?
Yeah, well, way to tee me up, Jen. I appreciate it. And one thing I wanted to also just commend was, it was really Jen and Upgrade Medicaid and the team that she rallied in Iowa that got me really excited about change in Iowa and feeling that we all should band together to make a difference. And so Jen was a big inspiration to me. And she also helped me realize that I did not identify or let all of you know, if you don't know me personally, I told a little bit of my story, but more politically and professionally. I had an accident when I was 18 years old. And so I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic. And so I'm coming to you from my power wheelchair. And so that really, it opened my eyes to just the disparity and the inequity. And so I've been getting more and more involved since then. But Jen, since you so aptly teed me up, I wanted to just talk about a couple things today and really just highlight for all of you that are tuning in or those that might be joining or listening in the future, and just talk about that first slide that Amy had put up there of just how close some of these elections are and just how much that matters. Because I think sometimes we think that we are such small fish in a big pond, and there's so many people going out there and voting, or we think the odds are so stacked against us that, oh my gosh, I'm just a minority party, or my district doesn't look like me, let alone would they elect me, would they elect the person that I believe in, and they're not getting as much money behind them. I'm not seeing the mailers or seeing their commercials. Gosh, I don't think they have a chance. I might as well stay home. And the truth is, folks, is that is all smoke and mirrors. A lot of times that's not true. You see a lot of times, I'm seeing it more and more in Iowa, where you're getting big companies and corporations that are pumping money into different candidates' campaigns and putting out a lot of flyers or a lot of advertisements or a lot of things in the media, and it's not translating to votes. And so a lot of times you'd be surprised at what matters to people in Iowa are the people themselves. And if you believe in a candidate, if you think someone can truly make a difference in not only your life, but the lives of those around you, those in your community, those in your part of the state, or maybe even just your city, you need to rally behind them. And you need to encourage them to continue to fight and continue to stay in the race and talk to others about why it's important to get behind them. Because then when you start to do that and that vote multiplies, you really might be surprised by the outcome. Even when things seem like the odds are stacked against you, you're seeing now more and more people are getting to be a part of the process. And we're seeing some changes happen in Iowa, which I think is encouraging, but also proves that there's a lot at stake. Because sometimes not only are these elections coming down to a small number of votes, but sometimes legislation itself is coming down to a small margin of votes. And so we have to think about the end game and, gosh, what is at stake? What is at stake if I'm willing to stay home, or I think the process is too difficult or arduous, and so I just don't think it's going to make a difference? And the truth is people like Representative Turek and others are finding out that, man, if they would have convinced that one family, if they would have convinced that one small group, if they would have took the opportunity to go and talk to them and encourage them to get out and make a plan to vote, or maybe if you and your family would have went out, it could have been the tipping point to really get a good person elected that was going to fight and advocate for what you believe in. And that kind of brings me to my second point that I really wanted to talk about just initially here. And then I'm going to kick it back over to Jen for some things that I know she wants to talk about. But the thing is that I wanted to talk about was becoming an educated voter. And I think that sometimes is really important as well, is people get uncomfortable with voting, or maybe think that they shouldn't go vote or that they don't need to vote because they don't know enough about the candidates. And I'll be first and foremost to admit to you, sometimes I feel that way. I'm an elected official that's very informed, and sometimes I feel like I don't know enough about the stances of these individuals. And so I'm asking all of you to take a moment and not only think about it and try to do a little bit of research online, but use any opportunity you have to really talk to them, to be able to find when they are going to be in your area, when they are going to be hosting events, and have those initial conversations with them to hear what are their priorities, what do they want to do, What are they hoping to accomplish? Because I think that will tell you a lot about a person. But then secondly, and perhaps most importantly, I would encourage all of you to think about the difference you can make in that elected person's life or in other people's lives that care about the similar things that you do. Because not only are you going to be learning more about them and whether or not you should support their candidacy, but you're also going to be talking to them about what issues are important to you. And so, regardless of political party, no matter who it is, what they're running for, I want to take time to really let them know this is what I'm facing. This is what the barriers are that are before me, whether it's for Medicaid, caregivers, what have you, just my ability to live. This is what I'm going through. And if they are knowledgeable about it, no matter whether they're ultimately the candidate I vote for or not, they might be elected or they might have influence down the road and can truly make a difference. And so it's really important for you to become an educated voter, understand that sometimes these votes and these races come down to so few, but also while you're becoming educated, you have an opportunity to educate those running about things that are very important for you and for a lot of Iowans. Jen, talk to me about your thoughts, the importance of voting and getting people out there.
Making a very similar point is that education. Our legislators, our elected officials hear a lot from lobbyists, hear a lot from business people. They do not hear enough from the typical person on how policy impacts them. So anytime that you share your story is an opportunity to educate them. And you make more of a difference than the lobbyists do. Your story stands out because you are a constituent. You're really important. You don't realize that until you've done it a couple times. But like Alex said, going and meeting any of your legislators, attending town halls, raising your hand, which can be really hard, can be very intimidating, but doing it and getting practice doing it. That's the beauty of having groups like Upgrade Medicaid, like Allies and Advocacy, doing great things, helping people share their stories, getting comfortable telling your stories, because you make a difference. If there's people in our community like Matt Gurlio and Greg Fear who have gone and talked to the governor, and Brady Werger who've talked to our governor and legislative, Tucker Cassidy and Alex, people have gone out and meet presidential candidates and made a difference in policy. You never know what you're going to say, how it's going to impact that legislator. And it might be the story that makes them have their aha moment and go, that's why I should vote for that. And I want you to think a step further too, that there are more of us running for office throughout the disability community. And there are wonderful programs like NICL, the National Council on Independent Living has the Elevate program. Sarah Blahovic has started Disability Victory, which is helping people run for office. There's New Disabled South, which is helping people in the southeastern region of the country with advocacy and running for office. And I just want to put a shout out to Build the Change from Act Blue, which is a new podcast. And their latest one is on disability advocates. That sometimes voting doesn't seem enough. Sometimes advocacy doesn't seem enough. That means it's time to stand up and run for office. And I want more people to think about that and to talk to Alex and myself about doing it, because it's hard. It's a challenge, but it's worth it. It's very much worth it.
No, I think you bring up a great point. One more thing that I just wanted to say is, in addition to thinking about not only educating yourself and making sure the importance of voting for people that you believe in, like Jen said, and even running for office yourself or considering the opportunity to do that, one of the other things I would highlight is, look, in a lot of ways, people, at least I'll speak firsthand, having a disability in Iowa and living through some of that is really difficult. It's really frustrating. And there are things that need to change. And so if you find yourself frustrated about some issue or something that's going on, you can truly have an opportunity to, like Jen said, educate those people that are running for office, that serve in various offices, that have the opportunity to make a difference or make your life better. And you might think, oh, I will definitely vote for presidential candidates. I would never miss that election, right? But sometimes you don't realize that, man, your local city election is going to matter just as much. Because now I don't want to speak for Jen, but gosh, sitting up behind the council, and serving the fourth largest city in Iowa, it's like, gosh, I see the way that we spend our money and I see the way that we have programs that empower people with disabilities. I see the road projects that we do, the upgrades that we make to our infrastructure, or the housing options that we have in our community. I mean, you better believe every time a developer comes before the council wanting to do a housing project, I'm talking about zero entry. I'm talking about roll-in showers. I'm talking about affordable homes. That's all, like, we all have that inherent power just by being a local elected official. I know it's important to show up for a presidential election, but you all need to be informed voters for your local people as well, because think about school board decisions that are being made. I don't have kids, right? I don't. And maybe you're sitting there and you don't have kids, but surely you see the value in having people with disabilities included in the classroom, making sure that we are funding AEAs, making sure that we have the resources available to empower those educators that are doing such meaningful work. So you better believe I'm educating myself about school board issues so that I can make an informed decision when that school board election comes around, even though it may not seem like it directly affects me. And so I think that's important too, is just really standing up for those opportunities and recognizing that, man, you have a lot of inherent power. Because as someone that grew up in very rural Iowa, small town, shout out to anyone coming in from a small town, those elections are even more close. I didn't grow up in Sioux City, where elections are, I mean, our last city council election came down to 67 votes. 67. And but when you're talking small town, a town of 500 or 2,000 people, yeah, you're talking 5 to 10 to 15 votes every single election. And that really can sway a lot of things. All right, I'll put the mic down because I know Jen might have a couple extra things and I want to get to my favorite part at some point, which is the Q&A.
I think the only thing I have to add is the fact that we have a lot of educated voters on this call. What's the next step? Is getting your friends and family to have voting plans, to encourage other people to get out involved in, well, not even just voting, but getting involved in campaigns. If there's somebody that you truly believe in, start working for them. You can make phone calls. And if that's not something you're into, you can write postcards. There's lots of different ways to volunteer to help your candidate. There's get involved with your local party. Whatever party you're affiliated with. That's building community. A lot of times in the disability community, we feel very isolated from our communities. This is a way to get involved. to build social connectedness, which is really important in this day and age. That, make plans, make it fun, make it, let's all go vote and then go out to eat. Do something fun around it where it's a celebration of the day, of the activity, and then a celebration of spending time together. So it becomes more of a social activity.
Thank you both so much. I was busy writing down your quotes because you had some really good ones. Fortunately, we're recording it, so I can go back and get them correct. But I think that's a great way to stop at that point, because I know many of you I see on here have been regular voters, and that last piece of taking action and trying to get others to out to the polls too is important. So let's open it up to questions, not just on voting. If you have other questions for them as self-advocates, I'll give you all a second to think about it. Just unmute if you want to, unless you all unmute at the same time. Quiet group. Well, we'll be replaying this a lot throughout this election cycle, because the reason we're doing this now is the primary election is on Tuesday. So you or anybody has an absentee ballot, you got to walk, and they haven't mailed it in yet, you got to take it down to the election office before the vote, before election day ends. So Kevin, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it was just a really great comment Alex you made about getting out there and I thought you made it, maybe Jennifer, you made the comment, I'm sorry. But just about getting out there and sharing your story. Sometimes it's very easy to get down on the way things are happening or the policies are coming out, and whether or not we really make a difference. But it's that little piece, that putting that pebble out there and moving forward, and hopefully enacting some small change that will then topple down and create a larger change. So thank you for that reminder.
Yeah. Well, and one thing, Kevin, too, because I think it was Jen about the importance of your story. And I remember when she was inspiring me years ago to think through that lens, it's like, it at least felt like I wasn't struggling alone. When I was hearing some of those things that other people were going through and that they were frustrated with as well. And then I felt empowered to share that with people and elected officials. And the more they hear that similar story, the more likely they are to enact change. When Representative Turk was going and pushing some legislation through this last cycle, I was doing everything I could to try to get people to share their story of how frustrated they are, because our elected officials need to be reminded that this isn't one person that's telling you this story. This is a common frustration in Iowa, or a common issue that's going to affect a lot of your voters. And unless we turn out and show them that voting has consequences, unfortunately, sometimes change doesn't happen. And I think that those stories stick with people. I mean, look, elected officials love getting behind a podium and telling a personal story, or, like, oh, I met this one person in Pennsylvania and this person did this. And, I mean, come on, we've all heard elected officials do that. They're looking for those stories.
Anybody else have questions? While you're thinking, I just want to reiterate, we saw a record number of bills related to disability priorities this year. I'm even just setting aside the AEA bill, but talking about work, employment opportunities, competitive integrated employment, making parks more accessible. I mean, just a lot. And to the point where Carlin and I, we started and Brooke started the bill of the week. And we were actually worried at the beginning of session, there wouldn't be enough issues to have a bill of each week. And we were so surprised this year. And I don't know why we were surprised. We had our first elected individual with a disability in a wheelchair at the Capitol who was driving a lot of that. And as well as a person whose family member has a disability and is on the board of a provider agency introducing bills. It's a direct impact of electing people that share your values and will voice your priorities at the Capitol. And in fact, the election of Josh Turek meant that the state house had to become accessible, which it was not accessible. Barely is accessible right now, but it is accessible now. So individuals who come into the Capitol to visit their legislators and might have be in a wheelchair or have other mobility issues can actually go get their picture taken down on the floor of the house now, whereas before they could not because there were steps. So again, elections have consequences, both good and bad. And that's, I think our speakers said that best. So last call for questions. And I will release them from their duties here today. And thank you guys so much. Go
Amy,
ahead.
if I can hop in, one last thing that I wanted to just comment. Sorry, I was reading Brooke's comment, I think, Brooke, in the chat, which I agree is really important to utilize those resources, but it just spurred my thought process too, just that I wanted to highlight, especially for people on the call that maybe you're unsure about voting or not regular voters, to just feel empowered and know what abilities you have as far as and what rights you have for assistance with voting. Because I think sometimes we don't know that and we forget that. I mean, now, gosh, if you're unable to get out of your vehicle, you can drive up and you can actually call a hotline or a number to be able to have a ballot brought out for you, so that you can sign it, you can fill it out, you can do that. They will return it for you. And trust me, with some of this Iowa weather, you better believe I was almost making that call. So don't feel like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I do. A perfect example is, look, I can't utilize my hands. I just can't really write effectively. So I would never be able to fill in a ballot. And that makes me a little nervous. Like, I remember I was apprehensive, sometimes going there. The good news is they have to have poll workers that are there to assist you. And it's also law, and they should have this there, where a representative from each party has to go with there and represent to ensure that they are marking your ballot accurately. And so you should feel assured that your vote is going to count for the people that you want to count it for, but then also try to get behind or try to get away from those nerves and step out of your comfort zone to be able to go and vote. Because I know that sometimes it's scary. You're not sure where you're supposed to vote. You're not sure what resources you need. And so I would really encourage you to make that plan to vote. Look at where you need to go. Look at if you want to vote by mail. Laws certainly are making that more and more challenging nowadays. So you got to make sure that you get that ballot turned back in. But really, there's so many different things that are there to help you, including sweet and kind individuals that work those polls the day of, that truly are just happy that you're there voting. And so they really want to assist you with that. So take advantage of that and allow them to help you so that you can do your duty.
And one last thing for me to circle back to way to the beginning when Amy was talking about how close the elections are. We are the world's largest minority. There are 1 billion of us in the world. If we would actually get out and vote, we would sway the elections, especially here in Iowa. So don't forget how important your vote is. It's your voice. Just remember that going into these primaries and next elections.
And Jen, you mean we're the largest minority or largest group? You mean as far as disabilities overall, not just good-looking city council members, right?
Exactly.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought it was. I just wanted to clarify for folks that disabilities in general. I got you.
In general, yeah.
No doubt. Well, thank you all so much for the opportunity. I'm confident that you can Google my name and find out just about any ways to get in contact with me. Otherwise, the DD Council is more than happy to pass along anything, and I would assume the same is true about Jen. But if you have any follow-up questions or anything you were a little nervous to ask here, so I'm an open book, so reach out anytime. So thank you all so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Alex. Thank you, Jen, very much. That was phenomenal. I think we'll be using these comments for quite some time throughout the election cycle here. And also, just to plug in, for since they offered, if you know of people who are like-minded and want to run for city council or run for school board or run for Congress or any of the seats available, I'm sure they would help give advice on that as well. It's an eye-opener when you start. And hey, Alex, President Obama lost his first race too, so for state
No
house.
doubt. As
Yeah.
well in Lincoln, and there are a lot of people that have had to try and try again. And
Yeah,
so
that's right.
it's important to be persistent.
Well, thank you. And I love that you shared about the voting, curbside voting, a great opportunity to exercise that right to do that. And I think we're getting more and more sophisticated as a state and being able to make that easier. It didn't used to be so easy, but it's getting a lot easier. I'm just going to throw up a screen here, not throw up, but put up a screen here with the dates. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that the election is, Tuesday. So again, if you have a ballot that you've voted on, but haven't put it in the mail yet, you're gonna have to take it to your county auditor's office. The post office is probably not going to be able to get it to them before the polls close on June 4th. So also, if you're busy on June 4th or going to be out of town, or it looks like there's going to be another tornado or whatever may happen in Iowa weather, you can still vote in person. It's in-person early voting. So it's like an absentee, you'll get an absentee ballot, but you vote it right there in the auditor's office. You can do that on Monday. I can't remember. Is it open this Saturday too? The Saturday before the election? I think they are. I think they're supposed to be open the Saturday before a primary or general election, but you can call your county auditor's office to find out more details about that. But I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that if they've got a ballot sitting there, if you haven't voted it, you can take it to the polls if you haven't voted it and surrender it, and then they'll let you vote. But I do want to switch gears here. If there's not any more questions about voting, I see there's a couple chats.
Amy, can I just make a comment before you move on? Just want to encourage you all, if you're feel empowered now, to do more education about voting and about candidates and their stance on values. The DD Council has grants available for groups or individuals to do voter empowerment trainings, and that can be organized however you would like to do that fits your local needs and interests. It could cover many of the things that we covered today, encouraging and empowering people to exercise their right to vote, to know what their rights are when they go to the polling place, to encourage educated and informed voting so that we're educating others about how they can get educated on candidates and what their stances are on issues. It could also involve inviting candidates for office to your event to ask them specific questions about their stance on issues. And also ways that we can talk to our friends and family about disability policy and policies that are important to all of us and how they can be more educated on those issues too. And we know that that can be tough sometimes because politics gets in the way. But as you heard from these individuals today, how important it is to think past party and past personality of candidates and really get to the values that they promote and maybe using when they are exercising their right to vote on laws and policies, public policy. So you can find the link to those available grants on our website. We'll put it in the chat also, and hope you will take advantage of it.
Yep. Thank you, Carlin. Switching gears really quickly. This just came into my inbox as we started this call. So if you haven't seen it already, if you're on HHS's list, they are going to be having a couple public comment sessions on the new behavioral health districts. So that would be the merging of mental health, substance use, tobacco, grants, anti-tobacco or tobacco prevention grants into new behavioral health districts. And those, you probably saw the map that they had prior, a suggested map, but I think they're going to go out and ask for thoughts and people's ideas on those districts and in terms of improving access to services. And so they have 2 virtual sessions set up. It's right here. We will put those on our website. I will also have this PowerPoint on our website where we post all of our videos. I can put that into the chat too. But if you just go to iowaddcouncil.org, you can find, it's pretty easy to navigate and find where the capital chats are. They're also, Brooke, you know more about this since you had a conversation, but there's also some upcoming planned sessions on the Aging and Disability Resource Centers, the ADRCs, where the non-Medicaid disability service coordination is going to be moved into. So breaking up the MHD, mental health and disability services regions, into behavioral health districts and these aging and disability services network. Those I don't believe are yet planned, but we should hear about those soon. Do you have any more information on that, Brooke?
No, they will take place throughout the summer, though. There'll be plenty of opportunity to participate. But once we get that schedule, we'll be sure to throw that in an email and also on Facebook.
Yeah. And we will post it in our news section as well on the website. I'll get this one in the news section on our website as well, so you can find it in multiple locations. Just a very last, we have one capital chat set up for June 28th at 11. I'm sure we'll be talking about anything surprising in the primary results. We will start to talk about and shift gears to Congress, since they might actually be doing some work this summer, maybe, hopefully. And we'll continue trying to find some special guests that we're not sure yet who those will be, but we will announce some special guests. I think you probably everybody agrees that you want to hear from people other than Brooke, Carlin, and I.
It's going to be hard to top Jen and Alex, though. So
I know
the challenge is out there for you advocates.
Yes. So make sure you sign up for that one. I know June's a tough month, and we usually take July off, so we'll see if we need to have a July one, but usually we skip it because there's a lot of people gone. All right, well, thank you guys, everybody. I'll give you some more time in your day. Thanks for joining us today. Got 10 minutes free. And thanks to our interpreter, Michelle. Appreciate you. All right.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Have a good weekend.